The least interesting part of this is the fact that he's lying through his teeth. That's implied he's a Zionist. You should know Ben has a real thing for Tucker Carlson. I don't understand it. It is just, I don't know. It's been going on for a long time. Ben is a funny guy. He is. He's never trying to be funny. He just is funny when he's being serious, and he's being seriously angry.
In the latest episode of the Cancel Tucker saga by Zionists like Ben Shapiro, we have Ben Shapiro lying through his teeth. Wow, what a surprise. So in this clip, Candace Owens completely exposes him and humiliates him for absolutely lying in a way that she can prove. So let's watch this. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
I don't know what to say other than it was the purest form of anti-Blackism that I've ever experienced. I mean, it's obvious to me that Ben Shapiro is manifestly insane. Last night, he was gripping the microphone as he would the neck of a black woman. I'm kidding. Obviously, those are not my quotes. Those are actually direct quotations from Ben Shapiro himself when he accuses others of anti-Semitism. Whenever he hears anything that he doesn't like about Israel, those are actually his words. This is a real live tweet from Ben Shapiro accusing any American Jew who is pro-Israel of being Israel first is a pure form of anti-Semitism. That was directed at Nick Fuentes, which we'll circle back to.
By the way, Ben, challenge on. You're an Israel firster, by the way.
Also, this was a real tweet directed at Ron Paul. Ron Paul is manifestly insane. As in previous debates, he is now gripping the pen as he would the neck of a Jew. Ron Paul? Really? And this is another tweet. Perry had the memorable moments of the evening. Had the memorable moments of the evening other than Ron Paul's corpse leaning forward from the grave and strangling the Jews. I don't know what's going on, man. I don't know what to say other than Ben is a funny guy. He is. He's never trying to be funny. He just is funny when he's being serious. And
yeah, he surely is, especially when no one remembers frickin' Rick Perry from Texas, of course. And for him to drag through the dirt Ron Paul, one of the true consummate heroes in Washington fighting against the wars and the Zionist crusades to overthrow basically every government in the Middle East, it seems, he's going to drag him. Of course he is. He's always been this way. He's always been a Zionist. Lying is part of his spiel.
And he's being seriously angry about a topic. It's just something that I enjoy to watch. And last night, he got on stage with Megyn Kelly. She had a tour stop in Florida. And I want to say, I was kind of impressed with Ben because instead of doing his usual thing where he sends others to do his dirty work so he can keep his hands clean, he was like, I'm going to peer pressure Megyn Kelly myself. I'm going to make her disavow me, make her disavow Candace Owens. I'm going to make her disavow Tucker Carlson by putting her on the spot and asking her to respond to things that Tucker Carlson never did and Candace Owens never did or said. And you really get to see it masked down because you saw this narrative circulating amongst people who were just absurdly making claims that I attacked Erica. And I know what these organic movements look like. I know how they operate behind the scenes. And I know Ben plays a part in this. And so,
yeah, absolutely. What he's trying to do, instead of letting others do his dirty work for him, he's getting desperate. That's all what this is. That's all what the Zionists are doing right now to try to cancel Tucker Carlson, pretend he's the supervillain of the universe, the greatest threat to humanity, the most dangerous anti-Semite in the country, according to Randy Fine, because he dares to have conversations with a guy for impure thoughts when Ben Shapiro can just interview mass genocidal maniac Netanyahu, and that's just fine. We're not supposed to ask questions about that. But this guy that hasn't been close to the levers of power, hasn't killed anyone or even been close to it, CNN puts on, James Clapper and John Brennan and John Bolton all the time. No problems there. They're mass murderers too. They were involved in very influential decisions that killed multitudes.
So it was actually quite refreshing for me to be like, now everyone gets to see what you are because you're saying stuff that never happened. So we'll start with what he said about Tucker Carlson. You should know Ben has a real thing for Tucker Carlson. I don't understand it. It is just, I don't know. It's been going on for a long time. There's something about Tucker Carlson that gets under his skin.
Here's a hint. He critiques Israel. He doesn't believe in Israel first. He says that's actually a backward priority. That's his thing with Tucker, Candace. Candace knows this. Candace truly knows this in her heart, too. That's just the truth.
I'm not clear on it. I would actually love to hear Ben speak about that. I mean, people at the Daily Wire, when they're leaving the Daily Wire, have to sign agreements that they're not going to go work for Tucker Carlson for 6 months. It's strange. Anyways, he jumps into this explaining his upset that like Tucker left him on red. I don't know. Tucker and him had a nice conversation on the day that Charlie Kirk died, and Tucker then sent a nice text because Ben had called him. And I guess Ben thought there would be more of a follow-up, and there wasn't. So here is Ben complaining about that and then spinning it into the accusation that Tucker Carlson somehow supports Mamdani. I don't know. Take a listen.
So I texted him and I said, thanks so much for calling. It means the world. It truly does. Should we do a show together talking about the DSA threat, Democratic Socialists of America threat, and orienting in the same direction? Happy to do whatever it takes to bring everyone back together for the fight that matters. And Tucker then wrote back, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm going to spend the next week or two thinking about how to be most effective. The country is clearly on the brink. I reached out repeatedly after that. Nothing happened. And again, I thought it was a good idea at the time. I think I felt differently after I saw what he did with Nick Fuentes, and after he proceeded, in my opinion, to spend the subsequent weeks doing literally nothing to fight the left. I say this with sadness because Tucker used to be, I think, a deeply important part of the conservative push to win. The number of times that Tucker Carlson has mentioned Zohran Mamdani since October 5th on his show is once. And it was in the context of Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson talking about the appeal of Zohran Mamdani.
Okay, this is really stupid. All right, first of all, it's a mayoral election. Yeah, it got major headlines, it got major news, but that's not his primary focal point. He talks mostly about politics involving federal politics and foreign policy and meta issues that are affecting the entire country. He's weighed into it at times, but in the very interview he's talking about and referencing here, he didn't endorse Mamdani by any stretch. He basically asked, how could so many people be attracted to this nonsense, right? That's his viewpoint. Whatever you think about Mamdani, that was Tucker Carlson's viewpoint. This is totally dishonest, and we should expect nothing other than this from Ben Shapiro, especially because he was totally dishonest about the Nick Fuentes interview. He said that Tucker didn't push back at all. Not that Tucker's obligated to push back at Nick Fuentes at all. He's not. It's his program. And he happens to carry much more influence than you, Ben. I think that's for a reason, by the way. But Tucker Carlson did push back against Nick Fuentes, clearly going as far as to say it was unchristian for Nick Fuentes to hold some of the opinions he had. And if you're a Christian, that's about the most powerful thing you can levy at someone else who claims to be a Christian. That's not something that you're just passively accepting everything that Nick Fuentes had to say.
Just by way of contrast, not because I'm a perfect representative here, but because you talked about Zohran Mamdani a lot. A lot of us have. Since October 5th, I did 17 separate shows on Zohran Mamdani, including 4 in the last week before the election. Okay, because when you're orienting against the left, you really should orient against the left.
Well, congrats, man. You were part of a coalition of right-wingers that were supporting Cuomo, who locked grandmothers away to die alone because of the COVID policies, instituting mask mandates and vaccine mandates and religious worship restrictions, shredding the Bill of Rights, bringing totalitarianism to the American doorstep. And you expect people to have a clear choice between Cuomo, who has blood on his hands already, and Mamdani, who I don't agree with, especially on economic issues, but was right and genuine, presented well, told the truth about, hey, he's not going to just go to Israel. He's going to prioritize the Americans that he represents in New York City if he becomes mayor. You're saying that was a clear choice. It clearly wasn't a clear choice, especially because of how wrong Cuomo was in the COVID regime, and Ben, how wrong you were, telling us we were all dopes and to go get vaccinated. I'm sorry, no, that take hasn't aged well either, just like your takes on Israel and Ron Paul, by the way.
So this just makes no sense. It makes entirely no sense. He's upset because I guess Tucker doesn't want to do a show with him in the future. A lot of stuff goes on in the background that you guys don't understand. So, okay, that's on Tucker. If Tucker doesn't want to collab with Ben, that's on him. Also, it's Tucker's platform. So what it means when you have your own show, which I don't know why the shock's Ben, is you can talk about whatever you want. If Tucker wants to do 6 months and he just wants to cover sports, it's his prerogative, and people
Yeah, what right-wing critics of Israel do you want to have on your show, Ben? You want to have some right-wing critics of Israel on your show? I don't think that happens. I think that you might have an ideological opposition to that, like it's your religion. So, yeah, Tucker might have his breaking points with you, too, and that could be one of them. You're doubling down on Israel's atrocities, fluffing Netanyahu like it's no tomorrow, and then having the gall to blame people for platforming Nick Fuentes, which means have a conversation. That's what you mock the liberal wokesters for, saying that, hey, they just react with racism as loud as they can when they're trying to bypass a conversation. Yeah, well, you're doing that now.
People can tune in or they can tune out. That's what the free markets mean. The free markets does not mean that the very same people who tried to artificially push Tucker out of the markets, the same people that applauded him being fired, the same people that have called him an anti-Semite, then get to dictate what he speaks about on his show. Like that actually just makes entirely no sense. It's not Tucker's responsibility. Doesn't live in New York City. It's not his responsibility to use his platform to speak about Mamdani 17 times. It's very strange. But to the insinuation that Tucker somehow supported Mamdani and said like nice things about him when he sat down with Marjorie Taylor Greene, here's actually what Tucker said with Marjorie Taylor Greene. And you be the judge of whether you think Ben is being an honest person when he describes it in the manner that he just did. Take a listen to Tucker.
It's interesting.
Spoiler.
You said a second ago that when people are really frustrated when the system they live under fails them, they listen to voices that they shouldn't listen to or wouldn't listen to under any other circumstance. Like, how did Al Sharpton get to be the leader of Black America or whatever? I mean, it's like it's a thing. Mm-hmm. Desperate people tend to go to crappy leaders, I think. And I just can't get over what happened in our biggest city this week, the very same week that everybody in D.C. is focused thousands of miles away on the greatest threat we face, Iran's nuclear program. I don't want Iran to have the bomb. I'm not pro-Iran, obviously.
We're not pro-Iran.
Yeah.
Like, why do we have to say it?
No,
but
right.
We do.
It's dumb.
There's the disclaimer.
But at the same time that everybody was looking to Iran, our largest city had a Democratic primary, effectively the mayor's race, and like 32-year-old socialist who wants government-run grocery stores gets elected. He's going to likely run our biggest city.
Doesn't seem like the most stunning endorsement of Mamdani, by the way, and his greatest sin is perceiving this as a bigger threat than Iran. And Iran is Ben Shapiro's biggest threat because he wants to drum up propaganda that Iran's going to detonate a nuke above Boston or New York. Like, Netanyahu said in his interview earlier in October. That is what his greatest sin is, not viewing Iran as as great a threat as Mamdani. Hardly an endorsement, by the way. It sounds like he wants to oppose Mamdani more than you, Ben Shapiro, by this, because you consider Iran a greater threat, it seems. Not weighing in on that question, I don't think Iran's a threat to the United States whatsoever.
Yeah. And
in the country.
Right. New York.
And it's like, why did that happen? Is it because people are so like desperate for government-run grocery stores or love socialism or love like foreign-born midwits running their cities? Probably not. Mm-mm. That guy was the only person in the New York City mayor's debate to say he wanted to focus on New York City. All the candidates were asked, if you could visit a foreign country, what would it be? And they, of course, all had an answer. I think most said Israel. Great. And he said, I wouldn't go anywhere. I'd stay in New York. And like, if I want to meet Jewish constituents, I go to their synagogues, their homes or whatever, but I'd be here in New York because that's what I'm doing. I'm running New York. That's my job.
Well, he gave the right answer.
He gave the right answer. He gave the right answer at least. And he's talking. I totally oppose his program.
Absolutely.
To be clear.
They said it there, but they're also telling the truth about why he won. It's not that big of a mystery. Ben Shapiro wants you to believe that played no role, but it completely did. All the polls are showing that even Jewish Americans supported him by something like 37%, despite all the doomsday scenarios that said if this guy gets elected, there's a new Holocaust around the corner. They always say, by the way, people like Randy Fine, that there's a new Holocaust around the corner when they deny the one that actively was taking place for the last 2 years in Gaza. That's what they want you to believe.
Yeah.
I don't think it works, but he's talking about economics.
Yep.
And everyone else is talking about foreign policy.
So he said what I said. I am describing to you why Mamdani won, and you're angry that people are assessing why that happened. Doesn't matter how many times you call somebody an anti-Semite. People appreciated, it's very obvious, the fact that he was not focused on foreign policy issues when there's so many domestic ones to prove from. You got to learn why you lose elections, and it's not Tucker's job to get people elected, least of all in cities that he doesn't live in.
Absolutely right. That's just telling the truth. That's just being real. That's just a come to Jesus moment, admitting why this happened. And it's not that big of a mystery. People that saw this play out saw how the Israel issue, they tried to creep it into the New York City mayoral election, which shouldn't really pertain to that at all. Yeah, I guess the UN is in New York, but, the United States central government, the federal government, claims purview over all diplomacy anyways. Under the Constitution, they generally have that. But at the same time, it's not that surprising when you saw those stooges on that debate stage next to Mondani say, hey, I'm going to take my 4th trip to Israel and then my 5th trip to Ukraine. Both are fighting for democracy. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to go to Israel too. And I'm going to pick up my belongings after this debate and go to Israel tomorrow. All these stooges said that. And he said, I'm not going to go to Israel. I'm just going to pay attention to my constituents in each of the boroughs. I'll meet with the Jewish leaders in each of them and prioritize their needs over this foreign regime. And everyone else was out of touch, and they still don't see it because they're playing an old game. And you can say this even if you're the biggest arch nemesis of all of Mamdani's economic program, because I am. I wouldn't want that. I don't live in New York. I have, no... It'd be pompous for me to want to weigh in for New York when I live down here in Nashville, and I'd think the same thing about New Yorkers weighing into this. Let's let bygones be bygones. We're supposed to have a decentralized federalist system anyways. That's becoming less and less true, but the truth is that both sides of the uniparty want to impose their ideal views on the entire country, and that's the reason we're in such a problem right now, because we wage these small-scale civil wars over governmental systems and localities that don't really affect us. Well, I say think and act locally. And that's what, Candace was saying too. So this is just so stupid. This is just the next manifestation of the Zionist lying campaign to try to drag the number one voice in conservatism through the mud. It's not going to work. We're not going back to that. We've rejected Zionism, so have the American people. All the polls are reflecting that, especially with younger Americans, and it hasn't really panned out in terms of affecting national politics yet, but I think it will. And I think it's clear that it will, because it's stooges like Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin and Randy Fine and Lindsey Graham that still use the same old strategies trying to cancel people like the liberal establishment when it won't work. And the irony is that the reason it won't work helped elevate some of their statures, including Ben Shapiro on college campuses, right? Debate me. Have an argument. Don't run away like a snowflake. Facts don't care about your feelings. Well, in this case, Ben, facts don't care about your feelings. It doesn't matter how much you don't like this moment and that you can't meet it. We're done with Zionism. Americans are starting to reject it. It's becoming too glaring, too hypocritical, and too obvious to see that this government prioritizes Israel above the United States. But what do you guys think? Do you think I'm right? Do you think Candace is right? Is Ben Shapiro's lying just going to bite him in the ass sometime? Let me know in the comments down below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, also subscribe to Candace Owens. Thank you, Candace. Great interview. If you like this video and want to become a YouTube member, you can help me out by supporting the channel that way. To do that, click the join button below. And if you do that, I'll give you access to all of my members only videos, the ones you can see right now if you're a member, before they go live to the general public on YouTube. Also, if you want a free copy of my first book, Compact of the Republic, click the link in the description below. I'll send that right to you via email in a PDF form. That's my gift to you. No charge, no obligation. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.